Hello and welcome to Building Resilience in the Legal Profession in partnership with Community Legal Services. My name is Jesse Lyon and I'm joined by Zac Dodson.
Hi.
We're going to be talking about some trauma-informed tools for overloaded attorneys. I think it's something you can probably identify with. Ready to get going?
On a daily basis.
Oof, man, as counselors too, and we'll talk about that. I think there's some overlap, some things, some tips, some secrets that we use to get us through, well, some pretty traumatic stories, which I don't know about you, but like when I'm working with my attorney clients in the mental health profession, the stories are very similar in a lot of times.
Very.
I think I have, to be honest, I have the added benefit of I don't have to file paperwork on time and have all those pressures of deadlines in the same way that attorneys do. So I do get into those conversations with those attorneys that I work with of like, you know, they're like, I could never do what you do, Jesse. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, I could never do what you do. So I think in many ways we can empathize. At least I hope we can. It's not presumptuous to say, but I think there's a lot of overlap in a lot of things that we use, and certainly a lot of things that I gather from the attorneys that I work with that have inspired me to learn how to build resiliency in my caseload.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that a lot of attorneys don't have the support that we might have in our community on mental health.
Yeah. We can be a little mushy.
Yeah.
That intact community support that we receive from our peers is a little bit more inherent in that system that we operate in, where I don't think it's the same for attorneys, especially when I talk about what it's like. It's very, very competitive, and it can feel like there's not that same level of community support.
100%.
So we're going to get into it, but we'll start with why we're here, so we're not so random. We do know a thing or two about this topic, and so Zac, I'll let you start. Would you mind introducing yourself and some of your background?
So you see, my name is Zac Dodson. I go by Zac. It's actually Zachary. But it says my credentials here are MA, Master's, CCHT, which is Certified Clinical Hypnotherapist, Qualified Supervisor, and Licensed Mental Health Counselor. Those are the legal requirements and things that make it so that I'm qualified to do what I do. But I think the experience is going to be so much more impactful and help out with understanding why these topics are so important to us. I've been doing hypnotherapy since about 2007. And I, along with Jesse, helped create a new type of hypnotherapy called trauma-focused hypnotherapy to help people in our profession deal with trauma in our patients. And been in private practice since about 2010 in the States, but educated in Switzerland. And the focus of my studies was Jungian psychoanalysis. I've done a lot of work working with trauma and complex trauma, both at the UN in Switzerland, with military here, and UN peacekeeping services. But most importantly, and what informs what we're talking about today, is my experience with the Pulse shooting. I was both there at the hospital and at the hotel across the street the morning of the Pulse shooting. And that's what inspired trauma-focused hypnotherapy, because I felt like our profession did not serve the needs of the community as well as it could. I think we did a great job, but not as well as we could.
There's room for improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that really made it so that I created a passion for educating people about dealing with complex things like complex trauma. But my private practice is HD Counseling, and it is currently the second largest group practice in the United States, the largest in Florida that is not corporate. And we have quite a few locations now.
It's true.
Mostly in Central Florida.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, did I forget anything?
Nice job. Nice job. My name is Jesse Lyon, co-founded Trauma-Focused Hypnotherapy with Zac. And And that's been more and more of the work that I've been doing lately, because I've been in private practice as a mental health counselor since 2015. And so, gosh, 10 years of talking with people about the struggles that they're going through. And I've seen such an opportunity, like I think you alluded to, for helping other counselors learn the tools and techniques to do their job more effectively. I think I've gotten enough experience, never enough, but enough experience to recognize that there are some things that we could be doing as a profession that I think would really improve our effectiveness, specifically with trauma. It sort of bothers me to no end that a lot of times when I talk with counselors about what is trauma, how it affects people, and just even asking them for a simple definition, they can really struggle to define what it is or talk about how to interact with it or how to treat it really effectively. And so, that shared vision between Zac and myself launched trauma-focused hypnotherapy and a lot of resources that we use and share just for free with the community about how to address trauma in ways that are much more effective based on both of our experience. My background comes a little bit more from complex trauma. I work a lot with schizophrenia and especially dissociative identity disorder, which was previously known as multiple personalities. That comes from a real system of complex trauma. And when we say complex trauma, really what we mean is it's different than a single event. If somebody has like one big car accident, that affects the mind and the emotions in a particular way. But when someone has had a series of events, starting with childhood, maybe a difficult upbringing, maybe a problematic environment, and then they get into middle school and are bullied, and then into high school, and there's some kind of sexual assault trauma, and then you get into college and there's another trauma that happens. The brain responds to that in a little bit different way, and so it can trip people up sometimes, understanding how to effectively address those things. I say all that not just to talk more, but I do find, unfortunately, a lot of parallels with the legal profession.
Yep.
It's like there is disaster after disaster, thing after thing, and before you can really understand what the ramifications of the first thing was, you're on to the next thing. And so there's all these almost like mental manila folders open on top of the filing cabinet with files strewn everywhere, and nothing feels put together or safe or organized. And so I find that my work in complex trauma lends itself really effectively to these type of professions where we're moving at such a pace and there's no time to really understand how that affected me and how I need to move through it. And so that's really where my passion for this kind of comes from. I really enjoy sharing this with other people, and so that's been a lot of my work as well. I do a lot of stuff on social media under the tag Lyon Mental Health, just like my last name. TikTok really popped off for me in COVID, so over 2 million followers there. Podcasts and appearances and all sorts of stuff. I just really have a passion for sharing this with other people so they can use it.
And just to add, what we're going to get into is the idea of community and building resilience and all of those things. And one of the reasons why your TikTok went off was because of how lonely people were feeling and how isolated people were feeling, which is a major contributor to burnout.
Well, yeah, I think it was proof that not only were people attracted to, oh, here's an individual who's talking about something I can identify with, and I look at all the comments and likes, there's other people who are going through the same thing I'm going through. And there's a really powerful healing process in that. I also own a private practice with a whole bunch of counselors in it, and we share building space a lot of times, but we're here to talk about resilience. So let's get to it, yeah?
Before we get into it, how about defining trauma, just so that everybody knows what that is? You want to do that?
Sure. Yeah. One of my frustration points with other counselors, trauma, at its core, real definition is a non-consensual ripping away of an identity. That's it. That's it. I think the thing I would caution people about is defining trauma through symptoms. It's as silly as a doctor when you go to them and ask, what's the diagnosis, doc? And they say, well, you got a runny nose, a fever, and some aches and pains. Well, yes, obviously. That's why I came to you. Can you tell me what I've got? And so it's so funny that we would never accept an answer like that from a doctor. But when it comes to a mental health counselor, we're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. We need a definition. And so I can be really, you know me, I can harp on this a lot. It's like if we don't define our terms, then we're not going to be able to have a productive conversation about this topic. And so really when it comes down to it, all these symptoms sort of, sort of spiral around or, have this hub of identity. And that's really how you can tell the difference between when somebody is going to have a traumatic response from an event and why somebody else may not have a traumatic response from that same event. Some people get into a car crash, they move on with their life.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, they can't leave their house again. And it's all because, what about your identity was wrapped up in that experience?
So then applying that to complex trauma,
Please.
If it is a ripping away of an identity, complex trauma is the slow erosion of that identity over the course of time, through multiple instances that of traumatic events that cause somebody to lose who they thought that they were, or who they were, or what they were hoping to be.
Yeah, I would say you could almost even describe that on the other side, like if that non-consensual erosion of an identity is slowly peeling away, almost grinding away at who you are, it's equally as much building up a false sense of self on the other side.
It will.
And we've all experienced that. Maybe it was the things that were told to us by our parents or by our first mentor or by that professor in college. And we start to learn this concept of ourself through the culture and the society that we're a part of, these little groups of like, oh, I'm only valuable when I do this.
I get a great example.
Please.
Law school.
Take it away.
No, that's it. Like if you've been to law school, you understand what the slow erosion of identity means.
I will leave it there because nothing more needs to be said about that. It is that way though.
It is.
And I talk with so many people who lose their sense of self, struggle to take a break, struggle to implement some of these coping strategies or resilience building skills because if I'm not working, what am I?
And I've heard of professors intentionally trying to do that and saying that is what makes a good attorney.
Yeah. There's a difference. We're going to get into the nuance of that.
Great.
So let's talk about what resilience sort of means. Building resilience without burning out. I think it was really important to me as we crafted this PowerPoint and talked about the presentation today. My goal is not to add things to your plate. I don't think that building resilience is going to require more effort on top of your limited schedule. What I do think this is being more judicious, being more like cutting through the nonsense and being like, this matters, this does not. So you can be a little bit more tactful about the things that you're doing. That is my intention for today. I think a lot of stuff gets sort of tacked on, specifically subconsciously. There's all these,
especially
subconsciously. And what I mean by that is like, if I've got a deadline, it's one thing to have a deadline, but if I've attached my identity and my sense of worth to that deadline, or I have all these other things buzzing around in my head about what it means to either make or not make that deadline, it makes that deadline exponentially more difficult, more stressful, more anxious, more depressing.
And the more you go down that road and you stay on that road and you have to make decisions like that, a mentor of mine said that the most expensive thing that the brain can do is reprioritize, especially when it's a reprioritization of our core values. And so when you're needing to do this, like, oh, I have this deadline. What we're saying is what you need to do is reprioritize. And if there's no energy to do the thing, there's going to be less energy to reprioritize the things. And that is at the heart of the issue about burnout.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So what is resilience a little bit here? I kind of like this definition from the American Psychological Association. Really at a basic level, resilience is the ability to successfully adapt to stressors, maintaining psychological and physical well-being in a high-demand environment. And there's been a lot of really new research and conversation about this idea of grit. Have you heard about?
Yeah.
You seen all that stuff? It's like, why are some people able to just kind of buckle down and get through, kind of cut through the things that don't matter, and other people struggle with that grit, that resiliency? There's been some really interesting studies
And the only thing that I would push back on some of the literature about it is that it can imply that grit is something that you have rather than something that is worked out or built. Like a muscle, like it needs to be continually worked out to stay strong. It's not something that you win and you get the prize and now you have it. It's something that has to be continually addressed and continually coming back to and continually being strengthened.
Yeah, absolutely. That resiliency and grit, it's when I think about it, it has a lot to do with letting go.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people can misunderstand that concept of resiliency and grit by like doing great at all the things. But when you actually look at somebody who's very successful and has a lot of grit, they're very quick at that's not working, let it go.
Yeah.
I don't have to make
Pivot.
it right before I let it go. That ability to pivot very quickly. And if you look at entrepreneurs and CEOs who are very successful, their ability to pivot is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I wonder if you could help describe for me, Zac, you made a mention about how reprioritizing and shifting attention can be very emotionally taxing. But
Mm-hmm.
how is that different from letting stuff go? Because they seem similar on the surface, no?
Absolutely, and I think that it starts with the fundamental principle of, like we're talking about as far as adapting.
Yeah.
I would like to fail as fast as I possibly can. There's that old adage: fail fast, fail fast, fail fast. I want to know if this task is going to be something that is worthwhile, ASAP. That's different than reprioritization, because in reprioritization, what I'm going to be hopefully doing is saying, this is what my priorities are. I'm going to keep both of these. I'm going to still maintain both of these, but I need to put a little bit more energy into one rather than the energy that I'm putting into, or the same amount of energy that I'm putting into something else. So I might take something off of my priority list, but the goal is to make it so that I'm reallocating my energy to different things in a different order.
We're finite creatures. I mean, we can't do all the things all the time. We have a limited resource for attention, emotional energy,
Mm-hmm.
stress tolerance. And so if you have all of these things on the plate at the same time and you're giving each of them 10%, there's a diminishing level of return
Mm-hmm.
in that. Really it's probably like each gets 7.5% because it's spread and you have to take that time to spread. But if you go 100% here, pivot, that's not working. 100% here, pivot, that's not working. Great, this one works. That's such a more effective strategy when it comes to resilience and grit.
And it creates like an innate problem, especially in the legal profession, because who are you working for?
I was just about to say that's great. Yeah.
That could be something that becomes incredibly confusing, because who you're working for might have an intention that is going to fail, or it's not a very efficient road to go down, but resources need to be allocated to this because the client says that they should. And it creates an innate recipe for burnout in that situation,
Yeah, it
because
does.
you can't be resilient.
Nope.
And sometimes people don't have the opportunity to say this is going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll add on this piece is I want to make a clear distinction between sort of the internal conversation and the external conversation.
Sure, that's a really good point.
And I was like, that's where I hope that we end this particular slide with is, yes, we have to present in certain ways for our clients, for our jobs. I mean, even as counselors, we have to do that as well. I leave my personal stuff at the door when I'm there and present for a client. Like I'm very much myself. It's not inauthentic, but I'm not talking with my client about my issues. Those stay here, and I'm presenting this. I've got my own problems. We're all people. The same thing happens, with law, right? The way that I'm presenting myself to maybe those who work for me, my colleagues, when I'm in the courtroom, when I'm with a client, it's all going to be very different. And to borrow from counseling terminology, we might even call those archetypes, right? These are characters that I play in my life. I have to play this character and this character. We also have characters at home. Husband, wife, parent, child to somebody else. Then there's going to be the way that I see myself inside. And so these conversations about resiliency and grit are much more about our internal conversation with ourselves than it is external. In that in the legal profession, I don't necessarily expect anybody to have a lot of empathy for my difficult day or my resilience. I have a job to get done. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
But I can definitely talk kindly to myself as I'm doing that. Anything to add to that? I just think that distinction's very important. All right. So where's the stress coming from? A lot of places.
Yeah.
A lot of places. Chronic stress has its own level of impact in our life. Like I said, when we haven't worked through one topic and we're moving on to another topic, we carry that stress, even if we're not consciously thinking about it, through to the next topic. There's also client trauma, vicarious trauma that we experience from taking on the stories that are told to us. I experienced this as a counselor because I'm listening to stories and deeply empathizing. You probably will experience this as a lawyer because in order to really accurately and adeptly think through a case, you almost have to put yourself in their shoes and imagine, okay, how can I maneuver myself through this scenario for the best possible outcome? Anything to add to this?
Just to add, also compounding stressors. An important thing to discuss, especially for your profession, is the compounding stressors or compounding trauma is what happens when there's a whole bunch of little things like, the person in the office that annoys you. The first time that they annoy you, you're just like, okay, whatever. The second time, the 1400th time they annoy you, you go, oh my God, there she goes again. And that last one, it really does affect our stress levels and our ability to reprioritize the things that we need to reprioritize, because I'm still sitting here thinking there's no hope for resolution in this situation. And so you compounding stressors with vicarious trauma too. The next person that comes to meet with me, or the next thing that I have to do for my actual work is stressful innately in itself. Now they pile on top of each other.
Yes. Well, yeah, there's so much we could get into with that. There's so many things in our personal lives that can affect our stress. If I'm not feeling financially stable, that's going to put me on edge. If I don't feel like I have solid personal relationships at home with my romantic partner or with my personal friendships outside of the legal profession, that's going to add stress. And so there's all these things that can start to pile one on top of the other to reach to a breaking point where someone would be like, this is not a big deal. Why are you freaking out about this?
Well, it is a big deal.
They're not seeing the layers.
1,400 times.
Exactly.
And then what happens is there's no resolution to it, and there's some sort of outburst or frustration, some shortness, something along those lines that then even compounds even more and exacerbates the issue that's going on because there's no resolution. And there's no resolution that causes lack of hope. And
yeah, well, and so I want to combine this topic of where the stress comes from with the previous topic of our definition of trauma. To take that compounding factor to a deeper level, when I am not clear on what I'm experiencing, that makes my emotions and my frustration and stress that much more difficult.
Or even unable to voice it. Maybe even you are clear on it. You can see what this problem is, but somebody else is telling you you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to feel that way, you're not allowed to experience that.
Yes.
Just to add to that.
Yeah, well, and so I think there are tiers going down kind of in the substrata of who we are, like to our sort of nucleus and core as a human being. There are these things, well, you should feel this way, you should think that way. And then as that gets compounded on top of us, we may no longer even hear those voices, right? You have to get good grades on your tests. You have to do well in your exams while we're in school. And then those voices get so cemented into who we are that now, without even hearing that voice of my professor or my tutor or my parents or those expecting perfection from me, I internalize that voice. And now I'm not even saying it to myself. I just always expect perfection, even without hearing that voice say, you need to be perfect. And so it goes deeper, becomes subconscious and automatic.
And that's where the erosion of complex trauma comes in.
Right. I think a great example of this is like depression. right? Oftentimes, not every time, but oftentimes, depression is an anger that got subverted. I should have been able to communicate my anger. I should have been able to express my frustration or difficulty with the experience that I had, but I wasn't able to, right? Maybe I was told that was bad. And so that anger gets turned inwards, and now instead of being upset with the situation that I was made to experience, I'm now upset with myself. And so that anger turns inwards and it festers and turns into hopelessness. It's much more difficult to work through hopelessness and the stress and deal with the resilience that comes from hopelessness because it's almost buried 3 layers deep. Well, it's not just hopelessness, it's anger. It's not just anger, it's unclear understanding of the experience that I went through.
Confusion.
And so you see, we have to walk that back almost. And so we're adding nuance to it, but I just want to show you how deep that can go and how even though we may be saying things that seem like, oh yeah, no duh, Zach, makes sense. You know, my annoying coworker or my problems back at home with my relationship. Well, yeah, sure, that's stressing me out. But it can go even deeper than that to the point where we may not even know. And that's really where the benefit of being in counseling helps because you get a third party looking in and being like, wait a minute, you have these automatic assumptions about your life that don't add up to the story that you're telling me. Where did you come up with those conclusions? Let's work that back.
The only thing that I'd add is that you said that might happen. I'd say that will happen. That probably will happen.
Yeah. It certainly does happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the necessarily antecedent of every depressed client I've have. Sometimes your dopamine just is not firing in your brain, and that's a bummer.
Right.
That's also a case too. Great. So what do you do with that resiliency mindset? If that's how it happens, what's next, Zach?
Hopelessness.
I sure hope not.
It's not what you want your therapist to say, is it?
Sometimes you do have to sit in it, though.
It might be a hopelessness for the goal that was never going to be accomplished that you said needed to be accomplished.
Yeah. That goes back to what we said about letting go.
Yeah.
And so, like, I am a fan of that. And sometimes, like, counseling sessions, especially with complex trauma survivors and, like, with hypnotherapy, gets very dark because I'm validating oftentimes. Saying,
And it has to go there first.
It is hopeless. If the goal is for you to be a good enough human being by being perfect, that's a hopeless goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is truth and validity to the hopelessness, but that's okay because it creates the way for, a much more resilient mindset.
So the first point there, is just that. It's letting go maybe of what was so concretely being fixated on and saying, opening the peripheral, which is what we call in trauma-focused hypnotherapy, potentiation. It's creating more potentials out there rather than doubling down and depotentiating, removing potentials, and focusing it on a singularity.
Take those blinders off, man.
Yeah. That's going to be the first thing that needs to happen in any situation where there's a hint of burnout. It's potentials.
Yeah, potentials. Which I think leads to the second point, and I see a lot, especially with trauma, is it is very often the case, and you might correct me and say always, but I'll at least say it's very often the case that when we've experienced a trauma or stress or struggling with resiliency, we have defaulted into black and white thinking.
Yep.
And this creates a lot of understanding for what black and white thinking is. If I'm not perfect, then I am. A lot of if-then statements. Helpful for logic and syllogisms, but maybe not helpful for how you care for yourself as a real human being.
Which is why this is so important for any attorney out there, because there's a lot of if-then statements that need to be made. And it's the whole basis of many, many arguments is if this happened, then this is what we have to believe.
Yes.
And that's not how the brain works.
And I'll say one of the biggest if-then statements that I see when it comes to this is the brain has evolved to be what it is. If you really think about it, all of us, right, presenting this lecture and you receiving the lecture are the best versions of human beings that have existed so far, right? You know, all of our ancestors' DNA are all combined together to be us today. And so maybe you don't see yourself that way, but I mean, just factually, we are the best that we've gotten so far. All of your ancestors survived. So here we are, right? Part of that is the brain likes to take responsibility. It likes to control things. That's a very helpful survival tool, right? If I can control this environment, if I can mitigate risk, if I can create safety for myself, then I have the greatest chance of success for continuing on, both emotionally, relationally, just survival. Now, the problem is there can be a very, very tricky thing that the brain does. In a situation that is far outside of my control, the brain, because it is wired this way, likes to take control. And so we'll see many situations that there may have been nothing you really could have done to help or fix or stop this thing from happening. But the brain will play a funny trick, and it's not trying to trick you, it's just trying to keep you safe. It'll say, well, this is really my fault because, right? I was assaulted. Well, I shouldn't have parked there. Or I shouldn't have gone to the bathroom by myself, or I, should have done something different, right? Well, I understand why the brain's doing that. If given the opportunity between saying this environment was out of my control and it was not fair to me, or saying, well, this is my responsibility, I could have done it better, the brain would much rather blame itself than admit the chaos and the truth of the chaos of the world. And that's tricky. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a victim. Certainly not. There's definitely things that we can learn from this experience and we can take on to the next one to keep ourselves safe. However, if you believe that, if that becomes a core part of your identity, it makes resiliency almost impossible.
Yep.
Because then when bad things happen, it's always your fault. How are you supposed to win if that is your narrative?
Well, you can't. And what
That's
that
the
will
point.
do is put blinders on and depotentiate you for
You're locked in, man.
looking for those situations, looking for those mini traumas, and then creating a complex trauma for yourself, and then therefore eroding an erosion of identity.
Yeah.
And if everybody could just take a second and think about the suggestions of those blinders that you experience or feel on a daily basis. Like, how many suggestions did you feel today or yesterday or last week about how you should be hyper-focused in on something? You should have blinders. You should have black and white thinking.
We probably can't even count.
Yeah.
Because there's so many that happen that you don't even know. They happen so fast and so frequently. So with this third point, reframing stress as an opportunity for clarity, it sounds like you're suggesting a new mindset entirely. If I'm not to blame and black and white thinking is not helpful for resiliency, what would an example of this reframe look like?
Learning. I think that it's so simple but so difficult. As soon as we put on
most things
those blinders to be hyper focused in on something and to make this thing in front of me the thing that all my energy and all my attention is going to, we really get out of a learning mindset. We get into a regurgitation mindset. Past experiences, past education, past everything, but I'm not creating anything new. So learning, creativity, going back to resiliency, it is the opportunity for something else.
And you said my favorite word there, which is creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity and exploration. When I approach things from a curious mindset, and curiosity and creativity go hand in hand for me, if I'm not so much looking for blame, but I'm looking to understand, that always presents me with better solutions than the alternative. I think one thing that I've experienced with working with clients for over 10 years is clients often want to know why.
Right.
It's the question. Why this? Why that? Why am I this way? Why am I that way? Why am I anxious? Why am I depressed? Why are things not working out for me? Why can't I make friends? And I remind them, because it's not intuitive, that why is usually, if not always, the least helpful question. If I can experience, or I can define what I'm feeling, how it feels, when it starts to happen, how it started. Once I answer all those other, who, what, when, where, why, how questions, why reveals itself on its own. I don't even have to ask
It's already there.
It's already
just
there. And so usually if you're struggling with a why question, why am I burning out? Why am I struggling with resilience? If instead you substitute the blame in the black and white thinking for curiosity and let go of that why for a moment and really sink into what is it that's going on? How does it feel? When does it show up? That why becomes blaringly clear.
And going back to the blinders is that if you ask why, it's because you're looking for, there's the assumption that you're looking for a specific thing, usually a singularity.
It's not that simple.
Yeah, it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not that simple.
Yeah. I'll say one last thing. I know we're gonna lecture forever on this topic, but one last thing is don't forget your body. I think a lot of times, especially I can just talk from my personal experience, my brain moves too quickly. And it's moving from one thing to the next. And so my body cues me in on a lot of things. Like even before we started recording today, I was not hungry for breakfast. I'm like, that's weird. Keep going. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've got this presentation I'm doing this afternoon. I guess I'm a little keyed up about it. My stomach is tight. And it doesn't want me to feed it right now. It's a little bit adrenaline fight or flight response. So it's like, did I cognizantly, consciously recognize that? No. But I can recognize the cues as I go along and then respond in kind to what my body, my mind is telling me.
Best antidote to burnout.
Best antidote to burnout. Can you tell me a little bit about emotional regulation in practice? Maybe some really practical stuff. What do we do?
Emotional regulation.
Yeah.
EQ.
EQ.
Emotional intelligence and understanding emotions. They're very complex. So many people have different theories about emotions, what they even are. But for the sake of our conversation and the sake of what we're talking about today, let's take the definition of an emotion is a message from the unconscious mind to give us more data about what's going on right now.
Hold on to that for a minute. Emotions are a message from your mind to tell you what's going on. Emotions are not the enemy. I know, leave it to two counselors to say that. It's so cheesy. But it's true. It's like the emotions are not the problem. They're telling you something. You may be missing the message, but if you're getting mad at how you feel, you missed something along the way, man.
And not only that, but like if you are frustrated and saying, I can't feel this emotion right now, what you're saying to your unconscious mind is, I'm going to not accept the message that you are giving me about how I need to be safe or how I can take more control or how I can perform better in this moment. I don't want any of that data because it would be not good for some reason. But we are trained that way because we would. It is a bad thing for us to have an emotion in a unsafe public place. To share an emotion with somebody else.
Classic to the lawyer profession.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
I need to be a stoic, which is kind of antithetical to stoicism in the first place. But
for a later lecture.
Yeah. It's about reading the message, accepting the message, and then incorporating that new data into whatever needs to happen right now.
Reading the message, because oftentimes we assume that the emotion means something that it usually doesn't mean.
Yeah.
So sadness, anger, frustration, burnout. I think we have a lot of assumptions like, oh, I know what that means. And it's like, you're probably wrong.
Maybe.
It might mean that, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of define EQ is like, what is your intelligence quotient for correctly interpreting those emotional messages your body and mind are telling you? Somebody who can do that well has a greater capacity for resilience than somebody who misunderstands their emotional messages and then develops this internal conflict with themselves of, I'm fighting myself. I tell you what, there's no faster way to burn out or to eat up your energy than to be at war with yourself. If you can accept all the emotions, a little zen here, a little new agey, if you can accept all the emotions and learn what they're telling you, it's a much better strategy for success. Like that's a winning principle that you can take with you and use it to improve.
Yeah. The simple thing is like walking into a meeting and I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to be nervous. Push that nervousness down. No, it's I'm nervous. What am I nervous about? This is a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's be curious about this nervousness. Why if I've done 10 meetings earlier today and yesterday, then why is it that I'm just nervous now? What's different about this situation? And what it does is it gives your brain the ability to actually assess better rather than just push it down and do what you're supposed to do. You'll probably miss something if you push it down.
Agreed.
And that's going to lead to burnout.
Yep, it sure will. In this process, your body is not optional. Pay attention to your body and what it's saying, but also you have a physical form. A lot of our stuff is online. It's in papers, it's in deadlines and calendars and spreadsheets, but you are a physical creature with a physical presence. And so if you're not sleeping, I know, I'm preaching to the choir here, man. If you're not sleeping, if you're not exercising, if your food intake is bad, if you've got a poor foundation for your life and like setting your physical being up for success, you're going to have a poor foundation for emotional resilience. Poor self-care leads to troubles with emotional regulation.
Yeah, and what just came up in me is just thinking about the old trend, which is not, we don't really use these words anymore, but we still do it. I want life hacks to make it so that my life is more efficient. And what that oftentimes turns into is neglecting the stuff right here. There are plenty of things that you could probably do that are more efficient, but just trying to say, oh, I'm going to do this thing that I'm going to just life hack for you. I'm going to stop by McDonald's for breakfast and get a quick thing there, or eat something, or I'm not going to eat in order to be more efficient in the morning time. It's like... Okay.
I've had some lawyers life hacks who were like, well, I've got like a case of those 5-hour energies next to my bed or in my kitchen, and just like life hack, when I wake up, pound one of those first thing in the morning. Oh no.
And 5 years after that, your body doesn't know how to make energy.
Your heart explodes.
Yeah, and you're done.
Yeah. I certainly hope I'm not misquoting this, but I think it's the greatest treatment for heart attack is taking naps.
Mm.
I hate that so much. I don't want to take a nap, but I can't argue with like, I'm stuck inside of, this meat robot that is my body, and I have to care for it. I got to do my routine maintenance. And if I'm not moving, stretching, and feeding myself, it's just not going to happen for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you can even tell, and maybe I'll share personally, like you can even tell what is going wrong based on the emotion that you're experiencing. Because I get really blamey and self-judgy if I need to go to bed and I'm sleep deprived. Classic. Everything's my fault. I'm a failure. I'm worthless. Every time I'm like, how did I sleep last night? Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I don't take it literally. I'm not a failure, not worthless. Not everything's my fault. I just need to go to bed. So I'm like, that's great. I'm going to get through my day. I'm going to power through. Prioritize getting to bed on time tonight because I clearly overdid it. Do you got any for you?
As far as like my
any you want to share?
Life hacks. I find that I feel the biggest steps down the burnout road when I'm doing things that are not, I can't find any curiosity in it. I'm doing the thing that I need to be more efficient on, but in a different life, I probably would have said, well, this is just part of the job. And the more efficient I've been at farming some of that stuff out to make it so that I don't have it, and being okay with the idea that I don't need to do this when I feel like I do need to control this and I need to be in charge over this. That is absolutely seen in my body, because spending 1 hour doing something that I don't want to do is like spending 10 hours exerting my body doing something that I'm very passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just burns you right out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really does. Oof. Next topic. You can't do it alone. How does this resiliency look in relationships? Because it certainly is relational.
One of the things that we talk about so much is community, and the importance of community to create resiliency. is seen all over the place, and I don't know why this is done so poorly in a business world, or
point.
in a governmental agency world. Everybody knows that your favorite sports team is going to fail when they don't like each other. Everybody knows that if you have ever connected with somebody in the military, that the military can create bonds that are lifelong and nothing compares.
Mm-hmm.
Bonds and connection and togetherness is essential for the propagation of resiliency. It has to happen. And so many of us go into our workforce, our work offices, and it's a semi-hostile place. I am not there, and it is cultivated that I am not there for anybody else. They are not there for me, and not only that, I need to be in competition with them. Therefore, the people that are supposed to be on my team are actually people that I'm going against.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of this being a positive thing, this is oftentimes something that is actually a negative suggestion and furthers people down the road of burnout. A couple of points on this is that's kind of the first one. The second one is like a hierarchy of support. And establishing and understanding what that means as far as both mentorship, your boss, peers, and where everybody lies on that spectrum.
That's great.
You do a really great job of this in your practice.
Thanks.
You want to say something to everybody about that as far as like how to build community when especially when the premise of or the underlying assumption and suggestion is that you should not have community or you should have community, but we're going to do it really badly.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there's so many nuanced pieces to it, but maybe to summarize, there's a couple like foundational principles that you sort of have to subscribe to. It's like if we're on the same team, then I don't get any better by putting you down. That's sort of foundational.
A lot of offices that is the culture.
Well, and the problem is, I think a lot of times, I talk with a lot of business owners about this, is that culture sort of comes from top down. If the person at the top is rewarding those below by causing them to fight each other to see who comes out on top, well, there is a culture that is being dictated top down that is not ultimately successful. It creates this sort of infighting. And so, one of the things that I do for company culture in my practice is if we're on the same team, we're not against each other. We will absolutely call each other out, be like, you're making a mistake there. I want us to all strive for excellence. And so I'm going to call that out and be like, this looks messed up. Am I seeing something you're not seeing, or are you seeing something that I'm not seeing? Because we need to get on the same page. That and honesty. It's like, just tell me if it's broken. We can figure it out. But I can't figure it out if nobody's telling me the honest truth. Like, don't hide your stuff. Guilt and shame comes a lot into that because we hide things. Oftentimes, feeling ashamed, needing to be perfect, feeling guilty for something. I would much rather all of us come together and figure it out than hiding things, keeping secrets. That's not how a team works. Deep connection. So maybe a couple of foundational principles, but I think the thing that I would hope the person on the other side of the screen would be able to hear is that if you don't have any relationships in your life where you can be fully authentically yourself, even with the yucky parts, it's going to be really hard to build resiliency because you have to hold all that stuff in. There's a classic phrase that counselors use all the time is that human beings are broken in relationships and we heal in relationships. And so if you don't have healing relationships that are taking you forward, and don't have the foundational premise that you are a valuable human being that I care about, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to build that grit and resilience to be successful and to navigate the very difficult career path that you're on. Mm-hmm. That would be my only 2 cents about that.
And I'd add, just like in some situations, like it's just not possible to have some sort of community that helps resiliency rather than promotes burnout. And so you got to find it somewhere. That has to be the case. And my suggestion to anybody that it can't find it at work, or work is actually antagonistic to it, is to find it in a community that is very much unlike whatever your work is.
I'm glad you said that.
So
If it's not at work, you're going to have to supplement somewhere else.
Yeah.
That is okay. That's necessary.
And I think that needs to be with people that are not associated in your head with work. Like, if you're an attorney in a toxic workplace, going and finding other attorneys that are also in toxic workplaces is not going to be a solution. And it would be more efficient for you to find people that are in different professions that you can really dissociate that toxic workplace from.
Yeah, I'm over here giggling because one of my best friends is in the finance world.
Mm.
And I couldn't think of anything more disparate than me being in the mental, emotional, complex trauma world and finance world. Everything is ledgers and numbers. There's no question about where it is. Boom, boom. And so we go out and have coffee, and I get to absorb living in that different environment and knowing that they care about me in that way. And that is great for me because it's not me talking with other counselors. Find that for yourself. If you find yourself in a toxic sort of environment that doesn't do that for you.
There's a life hack.
There's a life hack for you. Yeah, that's great. So let's get real practical here. It may sound a little goofy, but let's talk some things that are life hacks that actually work.
Yeah.
Tools for today, simple resiliency habits. Go for it.
Just some things that we don't even pay attention to throughout our day, and fitness trackers and stress trackers and all of that's is becoming so much more popular. But one of the last things that I see being incorporated into our common culture is just heart rate variation. And what the heart rate variation going up and going down very quickly and not slowly is one of the biggest detriments to having a happy.
It's like a warning sign.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so I'm always amazed at how little people spend paying attention to their breathing. And so just throughout the day, the more you can practice breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, where it feels like you're pushing the air down, is so helpful. I said this one before: labeling your feelings, just paying attention to what it is without judgment, without the need to fix it right away. Just saying, like, hey, anger's with me. That's really easy thing that you can do.
Yeah.
You know anything to that?
That's lovely. I mean, listen, we're all on the internet. Google some grounding techniques.
Yeah.
Google some breathing techniques. You'll find, you don't need us to tell you all those. There's some great ones. Just understand that your breath dictates a lot what you're feeling. So if you can take control of your breath, especially your exhales, some Wim Hof stuff, some circular breathing, box breathing, whatever it is. If you can take control of your exhales, that signals to your body that I'm not in danger. And having that physical grounding technique helps a whole lot. Having some positive reframes, right? What if you're not going to tell yourself the message that is detrimental to your resilience? What new message are you going to tell yourself? If you don't have that message pre-scripted out, do not expect yourself to come up with it on the spot when you're in a burnout situation. Mm-hmm. It's just not practical.
It's not
you can't do that. You need to spend some time outside of the stress. Write down, what is the message I believe about myself, so I can reframe this stress. That way you can use it in the moment. It's like self-defense. If you wait for the moment of being attacked to try and figure out how to do a judo chop, I said that on purpose because there's no such thing. It's not going to happen. That was just for you. Your facial expression didn't disappoint.
But my point to that would be also like make it an actual positive reframe. And there's a big difference between a positive reframe and just positive thinking. Like a task that you very like, it's only a 60% chance of you accomplishing this. A positive reframe is reframing the negative thought of I'm not going to be able to. No, you have a 60% chance of success. I'm never going to do this. No, it's also not, I can do anything I put my mind to. It's like, well, that's also not true.
Yeah.
So
Not realistic.
it's not realistic. So don't just think the positive thing and only focusing on that either, because the unconscious mind, what it's going to do is it's going to push back on that and be like, oh yeah, really? And then some self-sabotage stuff can come in. So an actual positive reframe is when we go, okay, I have a good chance of doing this. I assess it at 60%. If I put all my energy into doing this thing and I have a lot of energy, I think that it is more likely to be accomplished than not.
Well, like you said earlier, mistakes are learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great one. That's
Yep.
factual.
Yep.
Yeah, mistakes are learning opportunities. Great. Anchor phrases. I can handle this one breath at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Find your anchor phrases. And talking with a therapist is a great way to figure out what your anchor phrase is or what your positive reframes need to be. I do have one life hack for you. This is one of my favorites that I talk with my clients about all the time. But it's called my compartmentalization box. So it kind of combines a whole bunch of things into one nice little cube. And so if you can imagine in your mind, right, maybe we'll put it on the screen, a little box, right? It's got 6 sides, just like a dice. There's like 6 pieces to helping you compartmentalize stress. Now, predicate understanding. It's important to understand that there's a big difference between compartmentalization and repression. Repression is when we shove things down deep and don't come back to them. Not helpful, right? Repression is when we see substance use struggles. Repression is when we see us having like a hair trigger and we just explode at the littlest inconvenience, right? That means we got a lot of stuff stuffed down and it just blows up. Compartmentalization is saying, okay, I got an email at 9 p.m. on a Friday night and I can't do anything about it until Monday morning.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do over the weekend? Am I going to stress about it? Well, that is going to ruin my whole weekend. Maybe I need to box this up so I can deal with it on Monday and I can take a little bit of a break. And I think this happens a lot to us when we're laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and the mind just goes a million miles an hour because there come all those things that we're thinking about and struggling with. We've got to compartmentalize. Let's break it down. Let's put it somewhere. So imagine that cube, right? There's 6 sides to the cube. The first one is time. Right? First wall of this box, right? We're going to put this stress in this box. First wall is time. When is the right time for me to stress about this? If it's Saturday at 11 a.m. at brunch, probably not the time. I can't do anything about it. Everything's closed, right? I can't do nothing. It's going to be Monday. So take out your calendar, write a time in your calendar. Be like, I'm not going to worry about this until this time because this is the appropriate time to worry about it. Next wall of the box is documentation. I think a lot of times, especially for me, maybe you can identify, I will think about that thing over and over again because I don't want to forget any of the important pieces.
Yeah.
And so, well, that is one effective way to make sure you don't forget any of the pieces, but man, it'll really ruin your weekend. What if we take it out? We write a time at the top of the page, right? Maybe you get a paper, your phone, whatever. Time at the top of the page, this is when I'm going to worry about it. And I write down all the pieces I need to remember to do on Monday morning. That way it's out of my brain, it's on some paper, it's in my phone, so I can close it and set it aside. Document so you don't have to think about it. Then we have affirmations. I have to tell myself and remind myself, because now I put a time and the documentation over here, I got it out of my head, but now I have to affirm that I'm okay. Because sure, we got rid of the like nuts and bolts of it, but my brain is still in fight or flight response here. So I have to affirm, hey, it's okay to relax, have your weekend. You can't do anything about it until Monday. That's going to be the right time to work on it. Would you agree?
Yeah, and there's a lot of trust that goes into that too.
Yeah.
Is because if you don't have a practice of this, all of that stuff means nothing because I can take that sticky note and put it in my pants and it gets washed on Sundays.
That is true.
And so there's
Not
a lot
effective.
there's a lot of trust that you have to have with yourself, that you've practiced coming back to it, having a system of coming back to it, having all of that trust that your unconscious mind knows that you're going to actually do it.
Which builds a great sort of suggestion for myself of I can trust myself.
Yeah.
You know, the more that you do this, the more that you build that identity. Okay, so we've got a time for it. We've written down all the things that are needed. We've told myself that I am okay. I will survive this weekend. Now we've got all this energy, inside of us. I was all keyed up, ready to do this thing. That energy's got to go somewhere. And so the next piece is redirection, right? So it's the fourth wall of my box. Where am I going to put my energy? Worrying about it, stressing about it's not a great place.
Mhm.
But maybe I go for a walk. Maybe I go for a run, right? If that's my thing. Maybe I go watch that TV show that like helps me wind down because I've seen it 100 times, you know? Maybe I go talk with a friend, right? I go out with that friend from finance that doesn't understand anything about the emotionally nuanced world of counseling and mental health. Whatever it is, it has to be a very conscious and deliberate decision because twofold. One, that emotional energy is not going to go anywhere by itself unless you tell it. And then two, by having a very strong, very determined, I'm going to go this way, you reinforce for yourself that I am in control of the things that I am in control of. Maybe I can't control when the emails come in and how that's going to stress me, but I can control where I put my energy. And that's a really important message to demonstrate to yourself over a series of time to build this sense of identity and self back to the core definition of trauma. But the box has to have a bottom and a lid. The bottom is grounding. And we say grounding, that's kind of a counseling term, but it means that body piece, right? So if it's going to take a warm shower, right? Maybe going to the gym, maybe going to the spa, maybe getting out, going to the beach, listening to some waves. Whatever it is that gets you back into the present moment and grounds you, maybe it's breathing too, maybe it's listening to some songs, something to bring you back to the present because our mind explodes out into thinking about Monday morning when I need to just be with myself here because I can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And finally is the lid. The lid is consent. When consent goes two ways. I think about this as a counselor in a relationship context, right? Maybe I've got some stuff that's going on. I got to hold it together because we got a dinner to go to with the in-laws or something. I don't know.
Right.
And so it goes both ways. It's like maybe we're busy. And so my partner says something that's like, well, you know, it touches on that thing that we've said, okay, we're going to need to talk about this on Friday night during date night so we can figure out our finances, right? But they touch on something during the weekend. So, okay, like, hey, we can open this box. But if we open this box, I need consent from you because I'm going to dump the box. So you better clear the next 90 minutes of your schedule because you're getting the whole box, okay? So consent, right? I'm not going to unload on my business partner, my colleagues, my relationships, unless it's like, are we doing this? Are you sure?
Or myself. Am I in a safe place?
And then it goes the other way.
Oh, that's
yeah. See, you got it. It goes the other way. So it's like they start to touch on it and be like, hey, listen, I think that's a great thing. We definitely have to talk about it. I know we got that meeting on Wednesday in the afternoon to kind of discuss those things. I just don't have the time right now to really give my 100% attention to this. Let's hold on to this for that time where I can give it the energy it needs. And that's protecting me, right? I've got 5 other things that I got to do today, and I can't expend my energy and split it off over here, so I don't consent right now. Measure box. That's a great place to start. And here's the thing. Don't expect yourself to use that box if you don't have it written down somewhere in your phone or in your journal or whatever, because when you're in that moment of stress and panic, you're not going to remember these 6 steps. So write it down, follow the steps, don't think about it. Emotions are taking over, that's okay. It's part of your survival strategy. Just work it through, manage yourself. You're gonna be okay. Anything, Dad?
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, AI. I use AI for that.
Yeah, kind of like giving you some grounding tools.
Yeah, and with some for everything that you just described. I use AI, not to use any brands, but it's a voice recorder that takes notes for me, and will set reminders for me. And so doing all of that stuff, but I'm not carrying around something to write it down.
No. I was going to caution against. There's been a lot of stuff recently about people using AI as their substitute counselor.
Oh yeah,
that is not helpful.
No,
it's an echo chamber. It will tell you all sorts of terrible things. Trust me, I know. I've dealt with AI delusions in my counseling room, where we've gotten into some weird, sort of almost schizophrenic-like thoughts. But speaking your raw emotions out into the universe and then having AI parse it down to bullet points, love that. Big fan. That works really well. So just to clarify and caveat there. So some final thoughts and resources. Resiliency isn't a trait. Nobody's born with it. It's a skill you build with practice. So be kind to yourself. practice it. It's going to feel silly in the beginning. If you're feeling silly doing it, you're doing it right. It's the brave who are brave enough to feel silly to build resiliency that will lead to greater success in the future. And I know that's what we all want. We want to build a life and a legacy for ourselves, for our family, for our kids. Got to embrace the silly at first in order to get there. Next one.
That's great.
You don't need to be tougher. You need to feel safer. Things fall into place when you create a space for yourself to feel safe. And then growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds like a deep breath. Sometimes I've noticed that even in my presentation skills, I used to have a lot of uhs, ums, stutters, likes. And I've found that just by taking a minute, pausing, figuring out what it is I want to say, nobody notices that I took that pause. But I did take that pause. And it gives me some peace and clarity. And it helps things come across in the way that I intended them to. I even did it. I was like, where's that word? It's right there. The way I intended it. It's beautiful. Well, thank you everyone for attending, for listening. I've got some lovely resources for you if you want to learn more about the ways that hypnotherapy uses these techniques and tools to build resilience and to help you find success in a very stressful environment. Check us out with trauma-focused hypnotherapy. Ask us questions. We're very responsive to emails, phone calls, text messages. Our goal is to get good mental health information out to those who need it most. So thank you for all that you do. I hope this has been helpful. Reach out. You're not alone. See you in the next one.
Thanks.
Bye.